Welcome to the latest episode in our Pass the 11 Plus exam series, brought to you by ExamBuddy. Today, we'll be discussing word codes, a common verbal reasoning question found in the 11 Plus. If you like our videos and want to access hundreds more free questions to help you practice for the 11 Plus exam, visit our website at exambuddy.co.uk. So let's talk about word codes. Word codes are a commonly found verbal reasoning question type. In these questions, you'll be given a word and its corresponding code. You'll then be required to work out the pattern that links the word you've been given with its code. Once you've worked out the pattern, you will have to apply it to do one of two things. Firstly, you might need to encode another word that you've been given, or you might be given a code and be asked to decode it into a word. Don't worry, we'll explain what we mean when we go through our examples. This is what a typical word code question will look like. You'll have an alphabet line to help you work out your answers, although you should be able to remember the alphabet and write this down in the exam if you're not given it. Next, we can see the line where you're given a word, trip, and its corresponding code, GURK. Below that is the question. You know now that you will need to decode QFHG into a word. So let's go through some examples to help this make sense. There are two main types of word code questions seen in the 11 Plus. The first is the standard or linear sequence type, and the second is the mirrored type. We'll explain both with an example. So let's talk about the standard question type. Here's your alphabet line. Now, let's say you're given the letter E in a word. If the letter E is coded for by G, you know that you've moved forward along the alphabet line by 2 spaces. Alternatively, if you're given the letter E, it might be coded for by the letter C, so you know that you've moved backwards along the alphabet line by 2 spaces. So let's go through an example question. For those of you who want to try the question, before the answer and explanation is given, pause the recording now. So let's work through this question. Our top tip is to identify, if they're there, the same letters that are found in the word, and then to try and work out how these relate to the code. So we can see here that the word, pips, has 2 letter P's. In the code, these both relate to the letter R. So we can see that 2 of the letters in the word jump 2 spaces along the alphabet line to give the letters in the code. So let's see if this pattern applies to the rest of the word. If we look at I, we would expect, if it follows the pattern, to move 2 spaces along the alphabet line to get to K. And we can see that it does that. Similarly, for S, we expect it to move 2 spaces along the alphabet line in order to get U, which it does. So we've worked out the pattern. Now, we have to look at the question. We're given the code I, T, K, R. To decode this, we simply do the reverse of the pattern that we've already worked out. We know that to encode a word, you move each letter 2 spaces along the alphabet line. To decode the word, you would move 2 spaces backwards along the alphabet line. Give this a try. We can see that the answer is grip. Okay, so now let's take a look at mirrored word codes. We think these can be a little bit more tricky than the standard or linear sequences, but hopefully with the advice in this tutorial, you should find it a little bit more easy to spot them and work out the correct answers. Let's take a look at our alphabet line again. Imagine a line of symmetry drawn down the middle of the alphabet. It should cross between M and N. Letters to the left of this line of symmetry have a corresponding letter to the right of the line of symmetry. A corresponds with Z, D corresponds with W, F corresponds with U, and so on. So let's take a look at a practice question. For those of you that are trying this at home, if you want to answer the question before the explanation and answer is revealed, pause the recording now. So here's how you should approach mirrored questions. Look out for two letters that appear both in the given word and the code. If you see this, it should make you think that there is a mirrored word code. Here we see the word is trip and its code is Gurk. Both of those words contain R and I. What pattern do you see between I and R? Check that their positions on the alphabet line are symmetrical. You can do this in the exam by noting the positions on the alphabet and seeing whether they look roughly balanced on either side of that line of symmetry. Here we see I and R. They look symmetrical. Check through the rest of the letters in trip and see if they correspond. You'll find that T matches with G and that P matches with K. So now you move on to your code word that you were asked to decode. Apply the same pattern. Here we see the answer must be just. Q is the 9th letter from the end of the alphabet, while J is the 9th letter from the start. F is 6th from the start, and that corresponds with S, which is 6th from the end. We hope that you found this tutorial useful and that now that you feel more comfortable answering both standard and mirrored type word codes. Check out our other YouTube videos or sign up at www.exambuddy.co.uk for more free resources.